Hey, discerning listeners, escaping twin flames. Let's continue watching.
You're the masculine, so you need to take on a more masculine name and things like that. Because if you're a divine masculine, but you're acting like a divine feminine, then you're just pushing your twin flame away.
What would Anne's man name be? And I just think Dan. It's just so easy.
I never really found one that...
Okay, so this section is a lot of footage and also interviews with former members talking about how Jeff had developed a new way of seeing the world and humans and gender, in that everyone is either 100% masculine or 100% feminine. And even for gay couples, one person has to recognize that they are masculine or feminine. And there's all this woo stuff about yin and yang and energies and blah, blah, blah. And it's just ridiculous. And it's harmful to the individuals. You know, for some people, it might help them to explore and maybe express themselves and be validated, right? But for many people, it seems like it's just this weird thing that I keep saying it's bad business because it threatens alienating people. Because a lot of people are pretty confident in their gender identity and and it also seems like Jeff doesn't even really investigate. He just applies this label that maybe based on the way that they look or something. Anyway, so he's doing that. It's bad business, you know, but it's possible that it was good business-ish because one of the former members was saying that the twin flames, you know, Jeff was promising that you will absolutely find your twin flame, you know, guaranteed if you follow this program. And so eventually he started to say, well, you have to get these other people into the classes. And I think it was implied that that meant that Jeff would be able to control this other person such that he could make sure that it was a match, even though both people might not want to be in the relationship. And then when there was pushback on that, I'm just like, well, I can't get this person who won't return my phone calls anymore to join this class. And then there seemingly was a move by Jeff to say, okay, well, I have control over this set of people, anyone who joins, and most of them are women. So I guess I'll just make them all into gay people. So, you know, there'll be there's a fair amount of heterosexual people. So I'm going to force them to be bi or gay so that I can control individuals and make them into a couple, and I can meet my advertised guarantee of finding your twin flame. So that seems to be what's happening. But then this masculine feminine thing doesn't really fit into that, really. But the hypothesis that I've been putting forth, and a lot of people would that are experts in cults, is that it's about control. You can make money for sure down the line, but the more control you have over everyone, whether it's gender or sexuality or the way they dress, or it seems also implied that he's going to change people's names and say, you no longer, Jennifer is a feminine name and you are 100% masculine because I just randomly came up with that myself. And so now your name is Tom. I think that's where it's headed.
Resonated. So
about dance.
Just,
I'm trying to help you here.
They wanted you to completely align with this over heteronormative, traditional obscenity. It is not their fucking place to decide what gender somebody is or what they're meant to align with. It is not their fucking place.
Yeah, absolutely. And this I've seen before in a lot of cults as well, that they will tap into cultural notions, but in a new way. We're all indoctrinated into the binary when we're born, regardless of what society you're in. As far as I know, all or at least most societies have a very strong indoctrination and set of cultural propaganda that says, there's men who are straight and masculine and have all these qualities, and then there are women and girls and they have all these qualities, and never the twain shall meet, and blah, blah, blah. And we all have that, unfortunately. And so when cults will come along to try to control people, they will, in a way, almost sneak in through the back door to control your mind by tapping into these. It's sort of like what QAnon does. Everything that QAnon talks about, if you're familiar, is just a reworking of a cobbling together of a lot of traditions and beliefs that go back thousands of years, particularly within Christianity, about devils and devil worship and Satanism and sacrifice and all sorts of silliness. And QAnon just repackaged it, and it sneaks in through the back door of a lot of people because they have or might currently be in a culture or a church that actively has hints of this or overt discussions of this anyway. So what cult leaders will do is often it'll look like, it's like they're returning to traditional, like Make America Great Again, all this stuff. It taps into this cognitive bias or this cultural notion. It's easy to believe. It feels right to us. There's a lot of things that feel right to us that are not right. It feels right because we are indoctrinated. And so we have to have a critical mind. We have to be able to look at things and take some time and through discourse and listening and investigating ourselves to think like, well, that feels right, but is it right? So I think that it's possible that that's what Jeff is doing here.
Want to know who your true twin flame is? Victoria. It didn't seem real at first. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. Does that mean that Victoria is really a guy? Victoria's the masculine?
Yeah, so I didn't show the clip, but Shalia and Jeff had apparently some sort of religious epiphany one day, and then they texted everybody, and they showed the text or the emails, telling all the coaches about the inspiration, the divine inspiration that they had, which was that a bunch of people, they just learned, a bunch of their members are actually twin flames of each other, and they just emailed out, okay, this person is now with this person is now with this person is now with this person. And according to one of the former members, a lot of the individuals were matched up with same-sex people, and a lot of those people identified as heterosexual. So they're forcing these people to be in a relationship seemingly so that they can continue to guarantee that their members will find their twin flame. So, wow.
Control the situation, and I just said, you need to leave. You need to go to a friend's. You just need to leave. I can't deal with this right now.
Some family members accepted it and were nice. Some family members were like, this is just a phase. And some family members, like my parents, were like, get the fuck out. I want nothing to do with you. Goodbye.
Okay, so they showed a lot of footage and interviews regarding how the cult, Jeff and Shalia, are influencing people to believe that they are trans. And they're focusing on one individual, Ray. And I don't know, maybe Ray is trans, but the documentary is implying, I think, that Ray may not be trans, but in fact has just been brainwashed to believe that Ray is trans. And the mother is being interviewed, and she said that Ray, upon informing the mother that Ray was trans, that the mother asked, well, when did you come up with, like, has this been a long-term thing that you've been thinking about since you were young? And Ray said, no, I discovered it during Twin Flames. I had never thought of it before, but now I know that I'm trans. Okay. So again, maybe Ray is trans. It's hard to know, but if it's possible that Ray might be brainwashed. Think that, I don't know where this is headed with the documentary. I mean, I do know enough to know that the cult, I think, is still in operation, so it's possible that there's no resolution to the Ray story. It's also possible that Ray could extract himself from the cult and still say that he's trans, but also he was in a cult. So I don't know. It's hard to say, but at the very least, there's a lot of evidence that the cult was forcing people to change their gender identity and their sexuality. To give Jeff more evidence that he has power, maybe, I don't know, to make it so that they could force people together so that they could say, look, we're successful as a cult.
It was scary. When you think like people love you and then they go and do something like that.
The other thing that I want to say is that this taps into another cultural zeitgeist in that there are a lot of legit trans people who are coming out as trans or discovering themselves against all the oppression and all of the harm in our society and indoctrination. And we as a society, at least us on the right side of society, are rightfully so celebrating these individuals because it takes a lot of courage to be able to do this, and it leads the way for others. So it can perhaps be an element of control or encouragement or something for the cult members in that when they come out, they will get a lot of people to celebrate that with them, even people who aren't in the cult, right? So let's say you have someone who identifies as a woman and is being brainwashed to believe that they are indeed actually a divine man, the divine masculine. They come out as trans and they change their name and they announce it. Yeah, there's a good possibility that a lot of people, even people they don't know, will give them a thumbs up and say, good job. What's your journey? And then they say, well, twin flames actually helped me, and it advertises that for other. I don't know. So you could see how that would reward people for, if you're on the fence and you're like, well, am I really a man? I don't know. And then you make the transition and then you get all these rewards. You're like, oh, maybe I am a man, or it feels good, or at least I'm not being attacked. Another thing it does is it alienates from family because either they are suspicious that the individual isn't actually trans and that the cult is actually imposing this, or the family is just bigoted in some way and the family rejects or is some sort of conflictual presence in the person, the member's life, and it further distances themselves from the member, the cult member, it distances themselves from the family, which makes it so that the cult can have more control. It's just fascinating that Jeff and Shalia managed to cobble together a cult that is perfectly of our time. And it makes me think in the past, and there must have been, other cults that were also perfectly of their time, right? So it's just interesting.
There was no talking. I come back. He was gone.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.